Victoria Hayes stood outside the Grand Meridian Hotel, clutching her small beaded purse with trembling fingers. The December wind whipped through the Chicago streets, but the chill she felt had nothing to do with the weather. Through the massive glass doors, she could see a world that seemed impossibly distant from her cramped apartment in Pilsen, where past due notices decorated her refrigerator like unwanted magnets. Her best friend Rachel had practically dragged her to this New Year's Eve masquerade ball. Rachel worked for an event coordination company and had secured 2 tickets to what everyone called the social event of the season. Victoria had protested for days. She had no money for a dress, no energy for pretending everything was fine, and certainly no desire to spend an evening surrounded by successful people who would remind her of everything she had failed to achieve since graduation. But Rachel had been insistent. She had even loaned Victoria a stunning emerald green gown that hugged her figure perfectly and a delicate silver mask adorned with peacock feathers. Looking at her reflection before leaving, Victoria had barely recognized herself. Her auburn hair cascaded in soft curls down her back, and the dress transformed her from a struggling graduate into someone who belonged in a fairy tale. Stepping into another world. The ballroom took Victoria's breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting rainbow prisms across the marble floors. Women in glittering gowns waltzed with men in tailored tuxedos, everyone wearing elaborate masks that turned the evening into a scene from a dream. A string orchestra played classical music mixed with modern melodies, and waiters moved through the crowd offering champagne in delicate flutes. Victoria accepted a glass and retreated to the edge of the room. Rachel had disappeared into the crowd almost immediately, pulled away by colleagues and clients. Alone, Victoria felt the familiar weight of inadequacy settling on her shoulders. 6 months of job rejections had worn down her confidence to almost nothing. Her marketing degree felt useless, her portfolio ignored, her ambitions reduced to simply finding anything that would pay rent. She made her way to the outdoor terrace, needing air and space. The city stretched below, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. Out here, with the cold breeze and distant sounds of celebration, she could breathe again. The mysterious stranger. A voice broke through her thoughts. Beautiful view, but you look like you're carrying the weight of the entire skyline on your shoulders. Victoria turned to find a man standing several feet away, half hidden in the shadows of an ornamental pillar. He stepped forward, and even with the black and silver mask covering the upper half of his face, she could see he was striking. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with an easy confidence that suggested he belonged in places like this. His dark suit fit him perfectly, and his brown hair was styled with casual elegance. "Is my misery that obvious?" Victoria asked, managing a small smile. "Only to someone who feels the same way." He moved closer, maintaining a respectful distance. "These events can feel suffocating when you're not in the right headspace." "Then why are you here?" she challenged gently. He laughed, a warm sound that made something flutter in her chest. "Obligation. Family expectations. The usual reasons people do things they'd rather avoid." He gestured to the empty space beside her at the railing. "May I?" Victoria nodded, and he stood beside her. Up close, she could see his eyes through the mask, a striking hazel that seemed to see right through her carefully constructed walls. "I'm Victoria," she offered, deciding that partial honesty felt right. "Sebastian," he replied. "Though tonight, I'd rather just be a stranger sharing a moment with another stranger." They fell into easy conversation. Victoria found herself opening up in ways she never did with people she'd just met. She told him about her struggles finding work, about feeling like she'd disappointed her parents who'd worked so hard to put her through college. He listened with genuine attention, asking thoughtful questions that showed he truly cared about her answers. Sebastian shared his own burdens, speaking about family pressure and expectations that felt crushing. About a life mapped out before he was old enough to have opinions. About wondering if success meant anything when it came at the cost of personal freedom. Midnight magic. As the countdown to midnight began, the crowd inside surged toward the terrace. Sebastian took Victoria's hand, leading her to a quieter corner where hanging plants created a natural curtain of privacy. 10, 9, 8, the crowd chanted. I know this is fast, Sebastian said, his voice low and intense. But I feel something with you that I haven't felt in years. Like I can be real. 7, 6, 5. I feel it too, Victoria whispered, her heart racing. 4, 3, 2. Can I kiss you? Sebastian asked, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. 1. Happy New Year. Fireworks exploded overhead as their lips met. The kiss was everything Victoria had read about but never experienced. Gentle yet passionate, careful yet confident. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, and she melted into him. The world disappeared until there was nothing but this moment, this man, this impossible perfection. They stayed on that terrace for hours, talking and kissing and existing in a bubble separate from reality. As dawn began to lighten the sky, Sebastian took her hand. Come with me, he said softly. I don't want this night to end. Sunrise and shadows. Victoria knew she should say no. Every practical bone in her body screamed warnings. But when Sebastian looked at her with such hope and vulnerability, she couldn't refuse. They took a private elevator to a penthouse suite. Victoria barely registered the luxury surrounding her. She only saw Sebastian, removing his mask to reveal a face that matched the kindness in his voice. Strong jawline, full lips, eyes that held both confidence and uncertainty. He removed her mask gently, his fingers trailing along her cheek. Even more beautiful than I imagined, he murmured. What followed was tender and passionate, careful and wild. Sebastian touched her like she was precious, kissed her like she was oxygen. When they finally came together, Victoria felt tears slip down her cheeks at the overwhelming rightness of it. Afterward, wrapped in expensive sheets with Sebastian's arms around her, Victoria felt her phone buzz insistently in her discarded purse. Reality crashed back in. Her mother would be worried. She had responsibilities waiting. This beautiful fantasy had to end. I have to go, she whispered against his chest. Sebastian's arms tightened. Stay. Let me take you to breakfast. Give me your number. But Victoria was already pulling away, already rebuilding the walls that protected her heart. Sebastian Montgomery, whoever he really was, lived in a different world. Trying to bridge that gap would only lead to heartbreak. Let's keep this perfect, she said, dressing quickly. A beautiful memory that belongs just to us. She kissed him one last time and walked out the door, leaving behind the man who had given her the most magical night of her life, never imagining that fate had other plans entirely. Victoria spent the following week in a fog of contradictory emotions. Part of her replayed every moment with Sebastian on an endless loop, treasuring the memory like a precious jewel. Another part berated herself for running away, for not even getting his last name or phone number. But the practical part, the part that had kept her surviving through months of rejection, insisted she had made the right choice. Men like Sebastian didn't end up with girls like her in real life. She threw herself back into job applications with renewed determination. Something about that night had rekindled her confidence, reminded her that she was capable of connection and passion and being seen as valuable. She updated her resume, rewrote her cover letters, and sent out applications to 15 companies in 3 days. On Thursday afternoon, while Victoria was eating leftover rice and beans for the 3rd day in a row, her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was another robocall about her student loans. Hello? Good afternoon, is this Victoria Hayes? The voice was female, professional, and crisp. Yes, this is she. My name is Jennifer Park, and I'm calling from Montgomery Global Holdings. We received your application for the Junior Marketing Coordinator position. We were very impressed with your portfolio and would like to invite you for an interview tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Would that work for your schedule? Victoria nearly dropped the phone. Montgomery Global Holdings was one of the largest investment and development firms in Chicago. She had applied on a whim, never expecting to hear back from such a prestigious company. Yes, absolutely, Victoria managed, trying to keep her voice steady. 10 o'clock tomorrow works perfectly. Jennifer provided the address and instructions for check-in, then ended the call. Victoria sat frozen for a full minute before letting out a scream of excitement that probably alarmed her neighbors. This was it. This could be the opportunity that changed everything. Professional armor. Friday morning, Victoria woke at 6, too nervous and excited to sleep any longer. She spent 2 hours getting ready, trying on every combination of professional clothing she owned before settling on a navy blazer, white blouse, and gray pencil skirt. Her one pair of good heels completed the outfit. She pulled her hair back into a neat bun and applied minimal makeup, wanting to look polished but not overdone. The Montgomery Global Holdings building was downtown, a sleek tower of glass and steel that stretched 40 stories into the sky. Victoria arrived 30 minutes early and spent the time in a nearby coffee shop, reviewing notes about the company and practicing answers to potential interview questions. At 9:50, she walked through the revolving doors into a lobby that screamed wealth and power. Marble floors, modern art installations, and a reception desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. Victoria gave her name to the receptionist, who handed her a visitor badge and directed her to the executive floor. The elevator ride felt endless. Victoria watched the numbers climb, her heart pounding harder with each floor. When the doors opened on the 38th floor, she stepped into an office space that redefined elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, and the furniture was all clean lines and expensive materials. The reunion. Miss Hayes? A woman in her 50s approached with an extended hand. I'm Jennifer Park, we spoke on the phone. Thank you for coming in on such short notice. Thank you for the opportunity, Victoria replied, shaking her hand firmly despite her trembling fingers. The position reports directly to our CEO, who likes to be involved in all hiring decisions for his immediate team. He's running a few minutes behind from a previous meeting, but he should be ready shortly. Can I get you some water or coffee while you wait? Victoria accepted water, her throat suddenly dry. She sat in the waiting area, trying to calm her racing thoughts. The CEO himself would be conducting the interview. This was even bigger than she'd realized. 10 minutes later, Jennifer's phone buzzed. He's ready for you now, she said with an encouraging smile. Conference room B, right through those doors. Victoria stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked toward the indicated doors on legs that felt like they might give out. She took a deep breath, fixed a confident smile on her face, and pushed open the door. The man standing at the window with his back to her turned around. Time stopped. Sebastian. The man from New Year's Eve stood before her in a charcoal gray suit, his face registering the same shock that must be showing on hers. For a moment, neither of them moved, both frozen in disbelief. Victoria, Sebastian breathed, his professional composure cracking. Sebastian, she whispered back, feeling the blood drain from her face. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unspoken. Victoria's mind raced through a dozen explanations, excuses, escape routes. This couldn't be happening. The mysterious stranger from the masquerade, the man she'd shared the most intimate night of her life with, was Sebastian Montgomery. CEO. Billionaire. Her potential boss. Professionalism and tension. Sebastian recovered first, though Victoria could see the muscle ticking in his jaw that betrayed his inner turmoil. Please, sit down, he said, his voice carefully neutral as he gestured to the chair across from him at the conference table. Victoria sat, her movements mechanical. She placed her portfolio folder on the table, her hands shaking slightly. She couldn't look directly at him, couldn't reconcile the passionate man from that magical night with this controlled, professional figure before her. Sebastian sat across from her, and she felt his gaze on her face like a physical touch. He opened a folder, presumably containing her resume and application materials. "Miss Hayes," he began, and the formality of her last name felt like a blade. "Your portfolio is impressive. Your campaign concepts show creativity and strategic thinking." "Thank you, Mr. Montgomery," Victoria managed, forcing herself to meet his eyes. The hazel eyes that had looked at her with such tenderness now held carefully controlled emotion. They went through the interview questions mechanically. Sebastian asked about her experience, her goals, her approach to marketing challenges. Victoria answered as best she could, drawing on preparation and instinct, but every word felt surreal. How could they sit here discussing quarterly strategies and brand positioning when the last time they'd seen each other, they'd been tangled in sheets, whispering secrets in the dawn light? "Why did you leave without a word?" Sebastian asked suddenly, abandoning the script of interview questions. Victoria's breath caught. "Mr. Montgomery, that's not appropriate for an interview discussion." "You're right," he said, his jaw tightening again. He looked down at his papers, clearly struggling to regain his professional demeanor. "Let's continue." The rest of the interview was torture. Every glance felt charged with memory. Every accidental brush of fingers when he handed her a pen sent electricity through her body. Victoria could see Sebastian fighting the same battle, his control slipping in small moments, a softening around his eyes when she smiled, tension in his shoulders when she shifted in her seat. The impossible decision. After 45 minutes that felt like hours, Sebastian closed her folder. "Thank you for coming in, Miss Hayes. We have several other candidates to interview, but we'll be in touch by early next week with our decision." It was a dismissal, clear and final. Victoria stood, gathering her portfolio with as much dignity as she could muster. She extended her hand for a professional handshake. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Montgomery." Sebastian stood as well, taking her hand. The contact lasted a second too long, his fingers tightening around hers before releasing. "It was good to see you again, Victoria," he said quietly, dropping the formality for just a moment. "You too," she whispered, then turned and walked out before her composure could shatter completely. Victoria made it to the elevator before the tears started. She jabbed the lobby button repeatedly, desperate to escape before anyone saw her falling apart. The doors closed just as Jennifer Park emerged from another office, calling her name. The descent felt like falling through space. Victoria pressed her forehead against the cool metal wall, trying to breathe through the chaos of emotions. Embarrassment, longing, disappointment, and a bone-deep sadness that she couldn't name. She had finally gotten an interview with a major company, a real chance at changing her life. And it had been ripped away by the one impulsive decision she'd made in her carefully controlled existence. Sebastian would never hire her now. The night they'd shared made any professional relationship impossible. Victoria left the building and walked for hours, not caring where she went. She replayed every moment of the interview, analyzing every word and glance. Had she imagined the longing in Sebastian's eyes? The way his voice had softened when he dropped her formal title? Or was she projecting her own feelings onto a man who was simply being professional about an awkward situation? Waiting in agony. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and second-guessing. Victoria confided in Rachel, who listened with wide eyes to the whole story before declaring it, "the most romantic and terrible thing I've ever heard." Rachel's advice was simple: wait for the call, and if Montgomery Global offered her the job, take it. Life was too short to let fear make decisions. But Victoria wasn't sure she could work for Sebastian. How could she focus on campaigns and strategies when every day would mean seeing the man who'd touched her soul and body with equal reverence? When every professional interaction would be shadowed by the memory of his lips on her skin? Monday came and went with no call. Tuesday as well. By Wednesday, Victoria had convinced herself that she'd been rejected, that Sebastian had moved on to other candidates who didn't come with complicated personal history. Then, Thursday afternoon, her phone rang. Jennifer Park's number. Miss Hayes, I'm pleased to offer you the position of Junior Marketing Coordinator at Montgomery Global Holdings. Mr. Montgomery was very impressed with your interview and believes you'll be an excellent addition to our team. Victoria stood in her kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, unable to form words. Sebastian had hired her. Despite everything, despite the impossible complication of their shared night, he had chosen her for the position. The salary is $65,000 annually with full benefits, Jennifer continued, naming a figure that made Victoria's knees weak with relief. We'd like you to start Monday if possible. Does that work for you? Yes, Victoria heard herself say. Monday is perfect. Thank you so much. After the call ended, Victoria sank into a chair, her mind spinning. She had a job. A real job with a salary that would change her life. But she would be working for Sebastian Montgomery, seeing him every day, navigating the impossible tension between professional boundaries and personal history. She had no idea how she would survive it. But she also knew she couldn't turn down this opportunity. Whatever happened next, she would face it. She had to. Monday morning arrived with cruel swiftness. Victoria had spent the weekend preparing herself mentally, building walls around her heart and rehearsing professional scripts. She would be cordial but distant. Efficient but not familiar. She would treat Sebastian Montgomery like any other boss, ignore the way her pulse quickened at the thought of him, and absolutely never think about New Year's Eve. The plan lasted approximately 4 hours. Victoria arrived at 8:30, was given her employee badge and shown to a small but beautiful office with a view of the river. Jennifer Park walked her through paperwork, introduced her to the marketing team, and explained that she would be working on several high-profile campaigns under Sebastian's direct supervision. Mr. Montgomery likes to be hands-on with major projects, Jennifer explained as they walked toward his office. You'll have weekly strategy meetings with him, sometimes more often if a campaign is in a critical phase. Victoria's stomach twisted. Weekly meetings. Possibly more. She would be seeing Sebastian constantly, working closely with him, pretending that her entire body didn't remember the weight of his touch. Sebastian's office door was open. He sat behind a massive desk made of dark wood and glass, his attention focused on documents spread before him. He looked up as they approached, and for just a fraction of a second, Victoria saw raw emotion cross his face before the professional mask snapped back into place. Mr. Montgomery, Victoria Hayes is here for her first day, Jennifer announced. Sebastian stood, buttoning his suit jacket in a gesture that seemed automatic. Welcome, Miss Hayes. I trust Jennifer has been taking good care of you. Yes, sir. Everyone has been very welcoming, Victoria replied, proud of how steady her voice sounded. Good. We have a team meeting at 2 this afternoon to discuss the Riverside Development Campaign. I'll expect you there. His tone was all business, but his eyes held hers a moment too long before he looked away. Jennifer, please make sure Miss Hayes has access to all the relevant files. It was a dismissal. Victoria followed Jennifer back to her office, trying to ignore the hollowness in her chest. Navigating dangerous waters. The first 2 weeks established a painful pattern. Victoria threw herself into work with desperate intensity, determined to prove she had earned her position through merit. She studied every account, every past campaign, every market analysis until her eyes burned. She contributed ideas in meetings that impressed her colleagues and earned approving nods from department heads, and through it all, Sebastian watched her with an intensity that made her skin burn. Their interactions were scrupulously professional. He called her Miss Hayes. She called him Mr. Montgomery. They discussed target demographics and budget allocations and creative strategies. But underneath every conversation ran a current of unspoken emotion so powerful that Victoria sometimes had trouble breathing. She noticed small things. The way Sebastian's hand would lift slightly when she entered a room, as if he had to physically stop himself from reaching for her. How his voice would soften almost imperceptibly when he said her name. The way he positioned himself in meetings so he could see her without obviously staring. Victoria fought her own battles. She found herself hyper-aware of Sebastian's presence, always knowing exactly where he was in a room. Her body responded to his proximity in ways that horrified her, her heart racing when he leaned over her shoulder to look at designs, her breath catching when his hand accidentally brushed hers passing documents. The tension became almost unbearable. Breaking point. 3 weeks into her new job, crisis struck. The Riverside Development Campaign, Montgomery Global's biggest project of the quarter, hit a major snag. The original creative direction had tested poorly with focus groups, and the launch date was only 6 weeks away. Sebastian called an emergency meeting on Friday afternoon. "We need a complete redesign," he announced to the assembled team. "Fresh concepts, new approaches. I need proposals by Monday morning." Everyone groaned. The marketing director started to protest the timeline, but Sebastian cut him off with a look. "This project represents a $300 million investment. We don't have time for excuses. Who's willing to work this weekend?" Victoria's hand went up without hesitation, along with 2 other junior coordinators. Sebastian's gaze locked on her for a moment before he nodded. "Good. I'll be here as well. We'll work in teams. Miss Hayes, you'll be working directly with me on concept development." Victoria's heart plummeted even as her colleagues shot her envious looks. An entire weekend alone with Sebastian. It felt like the universe was testing her resolve. The long night. Saturday arrived cold and gray, matching Victoria's mood. She dressed in jeans and a comfortable sweater, figuring weekend work didn't require full professional attire. When she arrived at the office at 9, she found Sebastian already there, also dressed casually in dark jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked younger this way, more like the man she'd met at the masquerade. "Coffee?" he offered, gesturing to a fresh pot he'd apparently made. "Thank you," Victoria replied, accepting a mug and settling at the conference table where design mock-ups and market research covered every surface. They worked in focused silence for hours, brainstorming concepts and sketching rough ideas. Despite the tension humming between them, they fell into an easy creative rhythm. Sebastian's business instincts combined with Victoria's fresh perspective produced ideas that excited them both. By 6 in the evening, they had 3 strong concepts to develop further. They ordered dinner from a nearby restaurant and continued working, the Chicago skyline darkening outside the windows. "This one," Sebastian said, pointing to a design concept Victoria had sketched. "This captures exactly what we need. It's innovative but accessible. Bold but not alienating." Victoria felt a flush of pride. "You really think so?" "I know so. Your instincts are excellent, Victoria." He paused, then added quietly, "I knew they would be." The use of her first name sent a shiver through her. "Mr. Montgomery." "Sebastian," he interrupted, his voice rough. "When it's just us, please call me Sebastian. I can't bear the formality anymore." Victoria set down her pen, her hands trembling. "That's not appropriate. You're my boss." "I know." Sebastian stood, pacing to the window. "I know all the reasons this is impossible. But I can't stop thinking about you, Victoria. That night, it wasn't just physical for me. I felt something real." "We barely knew each other," Victoria protested, even as her heart raced. Sebastian turned to face her, and the naked emotion in his eyes took her breath away. "I know your favorite childhood memory is helping your grandmother make tamales every Christmas. I know you're terrified of disappointing your parents. I know you want to make a real difference in the world, not just make money. We talked for hours that night, Victoria. I knew you. You knew a version of me," Victoria said, standing as well. "Someone pretending to belong in your world for one night. That's not true." Sebastian moved closer, and Victoria's breath caught. You belong there because you're remarkable. Smart, creative, genuine. Do you think I hire people out of pity? You earned this position. Did I? Victoria challenged, years of insecurity surging up. Or did you give it to me because we slept together? Truth and vulnerability. The words hung between them, sharp and painful. Sebastian flinched as if she'd struck him. Is that really what you think of me? Victoria wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling exposed. I don't know what to think. This whole situation is impossible. You're right, Sebastian said quietly. He moved back to the table, bracing his hands on the edge. You're absolutely right. Which is why I've been trying so hard to maintain distance. But Victoria, I need you to understand something. He looked up at her, and the vulnerability in his expression made her heart ache. When you left that morning, I tried to find you. I went back to the hotel, asked everyone if they knew who you were. I even considered hiring a private investigator before realizing how creepy that would be. Then your application came across my desk, and I couldn't believe it. It felt like fate. Fate, Victoria repeated softly. I didn't plan to hire you because of what happened between us. I hired you because your portfolio was brilliant, your ideas were fresh, and your interview, despite the shock we both felt, showed me you could handle pressure with grace. Everything you've done these past 3 weeks has proven I made the right choice. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. Then why does it feel so wrong? Sebastian crossed to her in 3 strides, stopping just inches away. Close enough that she could feel his warmth, see the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. Because we're both fighting what we want. You ran away because you were scared. I understand that now. You thought I was out of your league, that what we had couldn't be real. Wasn't I right? Victoria whispered. You're Sebastian Montgomery. Billionaire CEO. I'm just a girl from Pilsen who couldn't even find a job until you gave me one. Stop, Sebastian said fiercely. Stop diminishing yourself. You think where you came from makes you less? My grandfather was a factory worker. He built this company from nothing through hard work and determination. The same qualities I see in you every single day. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. I don't care about pedigree or social status. I care about you. The woman who talked to me about dreams and fears. The woman who kissed me like I was her whole world. The woman who's been driving me slowly insane for 3 weeks with her brilliant ideas and her careful distance. Choosing love. Victoria's resistance crumbled. She leaned into his touch, closing her eyes against the tears that finally spilled over. I'm scared, Sebastian. What if this doesn't work? What if I disappoint you? Then we figure it out together, he murmured, his thumbs wiping away her tears. But Victoria, I need you to hear this. You could never disappoint me. These past weeks, watching you work, seeing your talent and dedication, I've only fallen harder. Victoria opened her eyes to find Sebastian looking at her with such tenderness that her breath caught. I've been miserable too, she admitted. Pretending I don't feel anything. Acting like you're just my boss when every time you're near me, I remember everything. Then stop pretending, Sebastian said. Take a chance on this. On us. What about work? The others will talk. They'll say I'm getting special treatment. Let them talk. You've already proven yourself. And if it becomes a problem, we'll handle it. You can transfer to a different department, report to someone else. There are solutions. He pressed his forehead to hers. But Victoria, I can't let you walk away again. Not when I know what we could have. Victoria slid her hands up his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her palms. I'm terrified. Be terrified with me, Sebastian echoed the words from that magical night. But be with me. This time, when their lips met, there was no champagne or fireworks or masked mystery. There was only truth, raw and vulnerable and real. Sebastian kissed her deeply, his arms wrapping around her waist to pull her close. Victoria melted into him, finally letting herself feel everything she'd been suppressing for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. I know this is complicated. But we can make it work. Yes, Victoria whispered. Yes, we can. New beginnings. They spent the rest of the weekend finishing the campaign, but everything had changed. The tension that had made every interaction painful transformed into something beautiful. They worked side by side, stealing kisses between brainstorming sessions, talking about everything they'd held back for weeks. Sebastian told her about the pressure of living up to his grandfather's legacy, about nights spent questioning every decision. Victoria shared her fears about her family's expectations, about feeling like an imposter in corporate America. They talked about their dreams beyond work, about the lives they wanted to build. By Sunday evening, they had not only created a campaign they both loved, but had also laid the foundation for something far more important. Monday morning, Sebastian called a company meeting. With Victoria by his side, he announced that they were seeing each other personally and that Victoria would be transferring to report to the marketing director to avoid any conflicts of interest. He made it clear that Victoria had earned her position through merit and would continue to be evaluated fairly. There were whispers and surprised looks, but also respect. Sebastian's transparency and Victoria's proven talent over the past weeks made it clear this was not a scandal but a genuine relationship. Victoria stood in Sebastian's penthouse, the same room where they'd first made love, but everything was different now. No more secrets, no more fear. Just the steady, deep love that had grown from that magical night into something stronger than either could have imagined. What are you thinking about? Sebastian asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About how scared I was that morning when I ran away, Victoria admitted. How close I came to missing all of this. Sebastian turned her to face him, his expression tender. But you didn't miss it. We found our way back to each other. We did, Victoria agreed, reaching up to kiss him softly. Against all odds. Not against all odds, Sebastian corrected with a smile. Some things are just meant to be. As the Chicago sun set outside their windows, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Victoria finally believed him. Some love stories began with mystery and magic. But the best ones were built on truth, trust, and the courage to choose love even when it seemed impossible. And theirs was the best kind of all. The end.